Hello, I'm Pastor Carl Johnston with the Atlanta, Ebenezer, and Hopedale United Methodist Churches, the Prairie Winds Parish. This week we're going to be doing a word study during our time of devotion. Word studies are an opportunity to look at specific words and what they meant originally in a passage of Scripture. We're going to look at one verse this week, only one verse, and that's 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 1. The verse is, "Rid yourself therefore of all malice and all guile, insincerity, envy, and all slander." That's the verse for this week. So we're going to look at a couple things. And the first thing we need to understand as we look at this verse is what we called in seminary the seats in Leben. It's a German expression. It means the situation in life in the early church, in this case. The seats in Laban, the situation in life in this early part of Peter's writing, was about persecution, but not persecution of the government per se, persecution of the neighbors and society. The Christians who were there were right in the face of in conflict most of the time because they were saying a radical thing. They said something like, well, they said this: Jesus is Lord. Everybody else in that society, everybody else in that neighborhood, everybody else in those towns only said Caesar is Lord. So when the Christians came up and said Jesus is Lord, they were not just saying making a religious statement. They were making a political statement. They were making a patriotic statement. And it flew in the face of everything that everybody else was saying. Well, sometimes when people disagree with you and me, there are times where some folks will hear a different opinion and say, well, they're entitled to their opinion. But when we start to say things, and people say things to us that challenge who we are and what we believe and what we've always believed, it causes a little bit of problems. So when we are hurt, when we've been offended, sometimes we have a desire to get back. Now, I remember as a little boy on the playground, there would be times when boys would get into tussles about different things, and it would be like, oh, yeah, well, I'll tell you. What are you going to tell me? You're going to tell me nothing. And then there was some pushing, and then there was some shoving, and then there was some trash talking. I'm going to hit you so hard, time you wake up, your clothes will be out of style. Oh, I must already hit you because your clothes are out of style. And that would be followed by somebody saying, oh yeah, well, I'm going to hit you in 3 ways: hard, fast, and continuously. And the malice, the ill will, continued to grow and spiral upward and escalate. And Peter said to the Christians, don't do that. Rid yourself of the malice, the ill will. If somebody wishes you ill, you wish them good. You pray for those who persecute you. Oh, that's something that Jesus taught, isn't it? Pray for those who don't like you. Pray for those who would want you hurt. Pray for them. Do them good. So while Peter says, rid yourself of something like malice, what he implies to you and me and all Christians is to replace that with something good and decent. Today we're going to talk about malice. We're talking about malice. And so we need to replace malice, that ill will, with goodwill and make things different. So instead of things spiraling up and getting out of control and getting worse and worse, we bring things down. And that's what Jesus calls us to and teaches us. And that's something for you to think about today.